Hello, ninth graders. We're back to our textbook after our test on Friday, and we're in chapter 18, which starts in your textbook on page 378. We're going to be studying adjectives. And adverbs, but adjectives first, okay? So what we're going to do, you want to be able to recognize adjectives and understand how they modify nouns and pronouns. So that's the objective of the lesson today. Okay, so I'm just going to read to you, and you can read this in your textbook on page 378, but I'm just going to kind of read to you what an adjective is. Okay, often a noun cannot express the exact meaning you have in mind. Imagine, for example, that a relative of a missing person reports she sailed off in the boat yesterday. What kind of boat? A Coast Guard officer might ask. If the relative were to answer, she sailed off in a white two-masted sailing boat, the officer would have a clearer picture of the boat. Words that describe or explain nouns are called adjectives. So you want to have a clearer picture when you are describing something. So if I went into, say, Subway or some sandwich shop and I said I would like to have a ham sandwich on bread, then naturally the clerk is going to ask me what kind of bread. So she wants me to describe the kind of bread that I want. Okay, so I could say white bread, wheat bread, ciabatta bread, Italian bread, cheese, blah, blah, blah bread. But anyway, I would need to describe for her so she would know what kind of bread. So adjectives describe or modify nouns. They make them clearer and more distinct. It's kind of like an old-fashioned camera where you have a focus, a lens that you focus. So when you're not focusing it, the picture might be blurry, but when you focus it, then the picture is clear. So that's basically what adjectives do. They clear up things and make, describe the noun. So pretty much that's what they do. Okay? So, so with adjectives, whenever you're asked to describe something, your favorite animal, your best friend, the largest trip you've ever took, you are likely to give an answer that is filled with adjectives. I mean, you're using them every day in your everyday language and your everyday talking. You might say, oh, we took the longest, most boring, most horrific trip. So you're using longest and boring and horrific. Those are adjectives. So you're using them all the time. You just don't really stop and say, oh, wow, I'm using an adjective. So, but you are using them to describe things in your language every day. Okay? So an adjective is a word used to describe a noun or a pronoun or to give a noun or pronoun a more specific meaning. For instance, like I talked about the bread, okay? You want wheat bread or white bread or some kind of bread. So you're giving it a more distinct meaning, okay? The process by which an adjective describes a word or makes it more specific is called modification. So adjectives modify nouns and pronouns, and that's all that they modify or all that they change is nouns and pronouns, okay? Modifying just means to change slightly. So an adjective modifies meaning by answering any of these four questions, okay? What kind, which one, how many, and how much. So for instance, if you said what kind, you could say a red boat or a silver jewelry, or a sick passenger, or cool water. Those are the adjectives that would modify the nouns that are following them. For instance, red would be describing the boat. Silver would be describing the jewelry. They also answer which one. For instance, third chance, this train, any piece, those apples. So you're modifying the words. For instance, third is modifying the noun chance. Those is modifying the word apples or describing the word apples. Okay? So modifying, describing. How many? How many would be like, say, 6 cars or several reasons, few letters, etc., like that. So again, you're modifying. 6 would be the adjective modifying the word cars. Several would be the adjective modifying, the word reasons. Few, of course, again, is modifying the word letters. So you can see how that works, where it modifies a noun and sometimes a pronoun. Enough space, no rain, more energy, little effort. Those answer the question, how much? So how much does it, that answers that. For instance, little rain. Little is modifying the noun rain. Okay, more energy, more, the adjective more is modifying the verb, or excuse me, the noun energy. Okay, so really they're not too hard. These are a little bit basic. We're starting off with the basics, of course, and then we'll move to a little bit more complicated. But so for instance, if I say, let me read something to you, and then I'll tell you how I'm describing with the adjectives. Okay. A cold, wet day on the ice blue slopes of New England, freezing in leather boots and the generation of ski clothes before microfibers was far preferable to being left out of all that fun. Missed the lunches of soggy tuna fish sandwiches and mini chocolate bars? No way. So all of those adjectives, cold, wet, ice blue, leather, soggy, and mini, are describing something, modifying. Okay, cold, wet day, ice blue slopes, leather boots, soggy sandwiches, and mini bars or mini chocolate bars. Okay, so those are descriptive adjectives, and they answer the question, what kind? Okay, so, and the other thing about adjectives is the adjective will usually come before the noun. It modifies, but once in a while it may come after. For instance, if you say the sick child lay in bed, sick is the adjective that modifies the noun child. So that comes before the noun. Sick child. Sick is the adjective, child is the noun. But sometimes it can come after. For instance, if you said the child sick in bed or sick with fever lay in bed. So the child sick with fever lay in bed. So sick is still modifying the child. It just comes after the noun. And a lot of times when you're writing, I'll be expecting you to use them when it comes after, because it makes it a little bit more interesting, the sentence a little bit more interesting. But typically it will come before the noun. Again, like the sick child. Okay? And then when it's modifying a pronoun, such as he, she, it, whatever, it will usually come after. Okay? For instance, she was sick. So sick is the adjective, and it's modifying the pronoun she. It's coming after the pronoun. But sometimes, again, they can come before the pronoun. Like sick in bed, he was very bored. So he is the pronoun modified by the adjective sick. You're just putting it in front. And either way you say that, there's no wrong or right, but typically you say them either before the noun or after the pronoun. But once in a while they can come in the opposite way. Okay? So, not too much, I don't think, about adjectives. Remember, they answer 4 questions. Which one, or excuse me, yeah, what kind, which one, how many, and how much. How many and how much may seem similar, and they are similar, but they're a little bit different in terms of adjectives and how they answer that question. Okay? So, what you're going to do, if you will, is do exercise 2 on page 382 in the text. So you'll have to, I guess, write that. And all you're going to do here, listen to the instructions and also read them in the text. You're going to identify each adjective. So you're going to write the adjectives in the following sentences. Then identify the word each adjective modifies, and then which question that it answers. So for instance, in number 1, it said small workboats were sailed exclusively for pleasure in early colonial times. Okay, so your adjectives in that would be small and work, and they're modifying boats. So they're answering the question, what kind? What kinds of boats? Small, work, boats. Okay? And then you also have, at the end of the sentence, hang on, let me see. Oh yeah, early colonial times. So early and colonial are adjectives that are modifying the word time, so the noun times. So those are which ones? Which ones? Early and colonial ones. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. It should. So what you're going to do, I've already done the first one for you or with you. So, you can write the words down on the paper for number 1. And then number 2 through 5, you want to do the same way. Some of them may have more than one adjective. Some of them might only have one. some of the sentences are going to have more than one. Okay, and don't get tripped up by compound nouns. Okay, so make sure you're looking at adjectives modifying nouns. All right, so you're going to do exercise 2 for work. That's 1 through 5. Again, you'll have to write it. You'll write down the adjectives, the noun it modifies, and the question that it answers. Now, if you're doing that on paper and you're going to take a picture of it or a photo of it for me, you need to do it in, you need your printing to be dark enough that I can read it, and you need to put it in a place where there's light, where I will be able to see the writing. Also, when I try to blow up Google Classroom, it will push the tops or the bottoms, like I can zoom it, but it will push the tops or the bottoms, so then I can't read them. So then I have to shrink it again. So it needs to be big enough or dark enough so that I can read it without having to zoom in or zoom out, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please email me and I'll explain it to you. It's just very difficult to read those, especially if you use pencil. So I prefer you use a darker pen, and that you write dark, and that you take a photo where there's light and I can see. And you should be able to look at your photo and see that there's not a lot of shadows on it or anything, but that needs to be where I can see it. Okay? So, and then the other exercise you're going to do, I will have to put on Google Classroom for you because it's a worksheet. So I'm assuming I'm going to have to either scan it or I'll have to type it up and put it on there. So that may take me a little while, so you may not get that until tomorrow, but that will be due a little bit later. So this assignment with the adjectives, first of all, I would like for you to go back through the textbook and read what I read to you. So you need to read the information on pages 378. Then the diagnostic test is on 379. Oh, you are going to do the diagnostic test. So again, you need to do that on paper as well. But you're only going to do skill check A, skill check C, and skill check D. Don't worry about skill check B because we're going to talk about articles a little bit later. Now, skill check C and skill check D are adverbs, or skill check D is actually adverbs and adjectives. So you're going to have to just do them diagnostically. Don't worry, it's a diagnostic, so it's not counted as a test grade. It's just a diagnostic for me to see where you are. So that is on page 379 in the textbook, and you're going to do that. Skill checks A, C, and D. And then again, you're going to do exercise 2 on page 382. But what I would like for you to do is go back and read the information. So read page 378, the information on 380, key concepts, and, look that over. And then also on 381, page 381. Okay? And then 382 is where exercise 2 is that you're going to do. So that's pretty much what I have for you today. Now, if you have any questions or any issues or you need assistance at all, please email me, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, so that's about it. Now, some of you haven't done the test. I think I told you last week I was not accepting late assignments anymore. I know some of you have some extenuations. So we've already talked about. Those of you who have had those, I've already discussed those with you. But those of you who are not doing the work, you're going to be getting zeros. So, and I also will be getting in touch with parents to let them know that the work is not getting done. So it's very, very important that you do this work. You're in school, so you need to be making the time. Your class period with me is second period. So, you're on the even day schedule, and you can look at that, and that's when you can do your work if you want to. But you need to take that time to do the work, okay, because you are responsible for that. Even though we're doing this a little bit differently, doing it with Zoom or whatever online, you're still responsible for doing the work and getting it in at the deadline. Now, I give you a little bit of extra time because you get the class or the information a little bit later, like this is after school, so you're getting it after school. But you still, again, need to do the work. These assignments will be due on Friday, which is the 18th of September. So they'll be due on Friday the 18th. So I need to have them in by then, turned in. And again, if you have any questions or any issues, you can email me and I'll be happy to answer you or assist you in any way I can. Okay? So thank you and have a good day. Bye.